Okay, so the story we're going to be reading is The Matchmaker by Elizabeth Berg. Berg. Anyway, I haven't read this story either. I will be just as surprised as you for what happens. The summer I turned 11, I played Matchmaker. I wanted Anna Gunther, the 75-year-old woman to whom I tried to teach English, and Artie Miller, the 76-year-old man who lived down the street, to fall in love. My intentions were not entirely philanthropic. If Anna and Artie worked, I thought, I might learn enough about love to garner the affections of Billy Croucher, in whom I was newly and greatly interested. He was a class ahead of me in school, a fine baseball player, and indisputably handsome. He never paid any attention to me, though I played baseball nearly as well as he, but I believed that at any moment something would break through inside him and he would see me clear. Then we would sit together on the bus. The notion of his hand resting on the seat near mine was enough to alter my breathing pattern. Right after school was out, I got my Junior Scientist of America card in the mail. I wrapped it in saran wrap and put it in a prominent place in my red plastic wallet. Then I ventured forth into the natural world, and recognized member of the scientific community at last, looking for important work. Sometimes I cracked open rocks, searching for elaborate crystal patterns. Sometimes I followed insects, secretly, I thought, to find what they really did. Mostly I gathered things to stare at under my microscope. The best things were always specimens from inside, though. Salt crystals, sugar crystals, a hair from my head. Often I would look quickly from the eyepiece to the object on the slide, to make sure nobody was fooling me. How could those translucent, multidimensional blocks I saw in the microscope really be the same sugar I so casually sprinkled on my oatmeal? In time, I grew tired of playing scientist. My best friend, Carol Conroy, who was my best friend mostly because she was an only child and therefore fascinating to me, had gone to Seattle on vacation. My other friend, the untidily overweight Kathy O'Connor, was not speaking to me due to the seriousness of our last argument, which had to do with whether or not playing waitress was babyish. Anna Gunther came to me at exactly the right time. I needed a new project, and a new friend. I first saw her when I emerged from some bushes where I'd been trying to catch a baby rabbit. He had eluded me, and I was hot and frustrated. She was sitting on the back porch of her house, wearing a print sundress, sandals with short black socks, and a kerchief on her head. "Hi," I said. She smiled and nodded. "I almost caught a baby rabbit," I said. Again she smiled and nodded. I came in for a closer view. "You live here?" I asked. She smiled yet again, and made some motion that indicated that she didn't understand me. I noticed her legs were unshaven. "No English?" I asked. She nodded happily. "No English, no English." I grew very excited. I'd never met anyone who didn't speak English before. I licked my lips and stood up straighter. I pointed to myself. "Sarah," I said, and then again. "Sarah." "Sarah," she repeated, and then, pointing to herself, she said, "Anna." "Anna," I said, and she beamed. This was going very well, I thought. "I teach you English?" I asked, and she stared blankly at me. I wondered how to pantomime teach. We studied each other in friendly expectation. Then I picked up a rock. "Rock," I said, pointing to it. "Rock," she answered seriously. "Yes," I said, and picked up a stick. We went on that way for some time. It never occurred to me that she might not want to be doing this. At one point, a younger woman came to the door and spoke in German to Anna. Then she looked at me and said, "Hello, you're teaching my mother English?" I blushed. "Well, that's fine," she said. My mother just came here from Stuttgart a week ago. She doesn't know any English, and she loves children." She spoke German to her mother again, and Anna nodded enthusiastically. I'm hired, I thought. I came over to Anna's back porch each afternoon. She would be waiting for me with a plate of cookies. We would have a little treat together, and then commence our lesson for the day. I thought it was important for Anna to learn animals, because I liked them. I brought over a huge volume depicting wildlife, and we would look at the pictures together. Tiger, I would say, pointing. Boa constrictor. Sometimes she would tell me the names of the animals in German, and when I haltingly repeated them back, she would nod approvingly. One day, as I was preparing to go to Anna's, I noticed that my turtle was looking sickly. I'd forgotten to feed him the day before, and I wasn't sure I'd remembered the day before that either. In addition to that, his water had nearly all evaporated. I felt terrible. I filled his bowl with fresh water and gave him a generous serving of assorted fly parts, and brought him with me to Anna's. She was properly concerned when I managed to communicate that the turtle was sick. This I had done by making retching sounds while pointing to the turtle. She picked him up and laid him gently on her skirt and stroked his tiny head on the diamond-shaped depression between his eyes. If turtles sigh, he did then. She spoke a little German to him, soft, incomprehensible words of comfort, and put him back by his plastic palm tree. Then she turned her attention to me to begin learning the names of wild flowers. The next morning, I found the turtle dead. I cried about it to my mother, who was kind enough to not point out that it was all my fault, and she gave me a velvet-lined jewelry box to be the turtle's casket. I put him in the box, gave him a kiss goodbye, and took him outside to bury him. It seemed to me that a turtle who had been so much abused in life ought to be buried in a magnificent place as compensation. The best place I knew was the gully, a large valley near my house, where I would often play. The grass was eye-high there, and rich-smelling. There was a stream that ran through it, with water so clear it was almost invisible, and with smooth stones and patches of moss all along the banks. I thought it would be good to have the turtle overlook the stream, to be high up on a hill with the sunshine while the water ran steadily below. I found a rock suitable for digging, and had just begun when I was suddenly overwhelmed with grief. I dropped the rock and covered my face with my hands. I wasn't done with that turtle. Why did he have to die? Did he hurt when he died? Did he hold a grudge against me? When he got to heaven and God asked him how he had gone, would he say, "Oh, it was fine until Sarah Harris starved me to death"? Sarah Harris? God would say. Oh, it was terrible. Pain and neglect were in the world, and suffering. But when it was your fault, I wept. I was interrupted by the sound of someone clearing his throat. I looked up to see an older man wearing corduroy pants, a blue shirt, and a cardigan sweater. He had slippers on, too, the kind my dad wore. "Lose a pet?" he asked. I nodded miserably. "What kind?" "A turtle," I said. "He was from the dime store." The man nodded and began helping me dig. "I used to have a turtle," he said, and I thought that he sounded sad. This seemed a fitting enough tribute for a turtle, to have two people thinking sorrowful and kind thoughts about him at the same time, one even an adult, and I began to feel better. "You live here?" I asked the man. "About half a block down the street from you." I was surprised. "I've never seen you." "My wife was sick for a long time," he said. "I couldn't get out much, busy taking care of her." "Is she okay now?" "She died." My eyes widened. A turtle was one thing, but a person? "Oh," I said, "that's sad." He looked down at me and smiled. "We had a good life together," he said. I patted the turtle's grave. "My grandpa died," I said, "but I didn't know him. He was 76. "So am I," the man said. I felt extremely awkward. "My other grandpa is 80, I said. "He's still alive." "What's your name?" the man asked. I told him and asked him his. "Artie Miller," he said, and shook my hand. It made me feel very grown up, and I decided I liked him. "Would you like to meet a woman your age?" I asked. "I don't think so," he said. "Not yet. She doesn't speak English. She lives on the block next to ours." "Maybe another time, okay?" "Okay." I watched him go. "Hearts," I said to Anna the next afternoon. I had an Archie comic book, and I was showing Anna the hearts that came out of Betty when she watched Archie walk by. Archie didn't even notice Betty, besotted the way he was with the raven-haired Veronica. "Hearts," Anna said dutifully. I pointed to my chest. "My heart," I said. Anna pointed to her ample bosom. "My heart," she said. "Yes, very good," I said, and then rose, indicating a transition. I pointed again to my chest, saying, "Heart?" Then I fluttered my eyelashes and sighed and said, "Love." Anna did not seem to understand me. I embraced the air, closed my eyes, and made loud kissing noises. Then I opened my eyes and said in a dreamy voice, "Love." "Ach!" she said. "Love, ja!" Her face softened. She knew what I meant. That was enough for that for today. It never paid to rush a fragile thing. I pulled a pile of my favorite baseball cards from my jeans pocket and sat beside her. "Minnesota Twins," I said. Anna selected a chocolate cookie from the plate between us. "Min-a-so-ta," she said carefully, and then took a bite. Then, "Twins!" she said triumphantly. "Perfect," I said.